Hello there. So we're starting the webinar. Welcome. So we'll have an exciting program here talking about our product launch and the future roadmap of Exasol. So I'm Alexander Stixen. I am the Chief Product Officer at Exasol. I recently joined the company after a long history in databases. I was the original founder of the database company called Realm, the mobile database. I've been at MongoDB for many years in leadership there. So I have a lot of excitement about coming to Exasol. I mean, this is the world's most fast database, which is actually pretty crazy from a product perspective. I mean, you don't see many databases out there that can keep the lead on databases for like year after year. Like I think we have been on the top of all the benchmarks for more than a decade, which is crazy. And I say that for someone who's been in the database space for like my entire career. I've been in the Silicon Valley, deep in all the databases, and this Exasol has something special there. But of course, just because we've been doing this for 10 years or more, we should not rest on our laurels. There's actually a lot of like potential for improvement coming up, and we are definitely moving there. So at this webinar, we will present you some of all the new cool stuff that already has happened and will be happening in the very near future. And I will hand this over to our very capable product team. First to Florian, who is our VP of Product Management and is kind of the linchpin around this whole program. So welcome, Florian.
All right. Thanks, Alexander. Thanks for the introduction. We're also going to hear directly from Thomas, Jürgen, and Madeline about the exciting new features that they are delivering as part of their roadmap. So yeah, thanks. So if we go on to the next slide, then I just want to double down a little bit on the core strength of Exasol, because what the new release is all about, and when we talk about new release, we're talking about the so-called experience release that we're bringing out end of Q2, is we are delivering on what we're already doing best, and we're adding additional capabilities to it, right? So why have customers choosing Exasol, or why should they, right? It's all about cost control, right? So Alexander already told us that, well, he was excited that Exasol is the performance leader since over a decade, right? So we are already used to that, but it's good to see that's exciting people also outside of Exasol. And this high performance is coming from our in-memory MPP architecture, and of course also from a lot of other things like self-tuning mechanisms, in-memory processing, etc. So you all know the magic behind the technology, but this is basically a major factor in lowering costs, increasing productivity, not just for SQL and BI reporting workloads, but especially for AI and ML at scale. And Madeline is going to show us the awesome things that we're bringing in that space shortly. And yeah, so the way that we're supporting our customers now is, of course, keeping cloud costs under control, but also helping repatriating workloads from the cloud, and also delivering or implementing hybrid models there. The second pillar where Exasol shows its core strength is the regulatory compliance, right? So one of our key verticals is the financial sector and insurance and overall regulated industries. And the flexibility of Exasol is just something that's very unique. So you can deploy the engine where you need to run your workloads, right? You can do it on-prem, in the cloud, or hybrid. And you just have built-in governance and overall just a low administration overhead. And Jürgen is going to showcase the great improvements that we're making with our admin UI in the new experience release. And last but not least, it's all about time to deliver the right insights at the right time, right? So performance has an impact on the business decisions you can make, right? The scale of problems that you can address, so getting ahead of your competition. But that's also only just birth if you can really use that in your data stack, right? So the integrations, and we hear from Thomas later on about we integrate into new data architecture. That's not just things that also make Exasol exceptional. And with the new release that we're going to release end of Q2, the experience release, or 2025.1, we're just doubling down on this core strength, right? So we're going to hear how we're doing improvements for the core database, how we are improving operational efficiency with the admin UI, and how we are leveraging performance to really deliver on AI use cases. But before we dive into all of these different parts, I'll hand it over back to Alexander to give you a broader overview.
Yeah, thank you, Florian. Yeah, I mean, I think these three pillars, of course, are like the foundation. This is kind of what allows you to deploy this everywhere you want to, like get all these core benefits. But of course, the features around are also the things that makes it a delight to use and actually gives you the capabilities you want. So if we move to the next slide, yeah, then you will see that the database encompasses a lot of things. Right? We have these foundational pillars, the performance essentially that really drive things. But on top of the interesting part, of course, of this is what it enables. What can you do with this? And one big area that Madeline will go into much more detail with is AI. Right? I mean, Exasol really is the AI database. Right? Uniquely for most database, you can actually run native code within the database, where you can actually run models, you can run real AI workloads, which allows you like total unique ability to actually run AI within the database itself. And of course, we also have ways to interact with AI from the outside as a user. But as an actual database developer, this actually gives you a lot of power in there. Then we also have all integrations, and we actually will talk a lot more about that with like Databricks and Snowflake and what we can do in this new Lakehouse world, which is at least for me super exciting. So much cool stuff we're doing there. And this all ties together with the performance and the operations. Like you want this to be easy to use. And Jürgen will go in deeper with the new admin UI, but there's a lot around that, how you make deployment easier, management, administration easier. And as you see, as this kind of full circle, it all ties together. And the performance is really the driver that pushes it all around and makes this so attractive and efficient. So let's move on and actually let's go more deep dive in each topic. So we'll hand it up to the product team.
So yeah, hi, I'm Jürgen. I'm responsible here for the platform. Florian has explained earlier that Exasol can run on a various types of platforms, on-premise, in your own cloud. We have our own SaaS, for example. So for us, it was really important to give a great experience on all of these platforms and really be able to easily manage and efficiently manage your Exasol system on these platforms. So that's why we decided to build an admin UI that we're going to release with the experience release. And in this first release, we're going to focus on daily efficiency. So basically covering all the capabilities that you need to manage your system on a daily or at least on a regular basis. So let's walk through this. What does it mean? What do we have here, for example? So at first, you want to get an overview of your system. So which databases do you have in your system? Are they running? How are they doing on a high level? Could we maybe go back to the previous slide? Thank you. So how are they doing? Are the nodes all running? How many nodes do you have in your system? So really get a quick overview of your database. When you have an issue, it's very important to have easy access to all of your logs, because this is where all the troubleshooting happens, where you can find any indication of any issue. So we wanted to make it really easy to browse and filter for the logs to really find the messages that you need in order to troubleshoot. In case you cannot troubleshoot or kind of not find the solution yourself, you can also download the logs and then you can send them to us, to our support team. We will investigate these logs, we will analyze them, and then we will help you with a solution. Backups, as we all know, as administrators, are a vital part to a disaster recovery strategy. So that's why we wanted to make it really easy to schedule backups. but also to manage those backups. So to check, have those backups gone through? Was there any kind of issue with that maybe? When do the backups expire? And also how much space do they require on the system? Yeah, we heard from Florian and Alexander, we have a lot of great features in Exasol. And I think one of the coolest feature or cooler feature is our Bucketfs, where you can store files and folders in the database, basically very close to your data. And because it's such a unique, great feature, we wanted to also make it very, very easy to manage Bucketfs. So browse through your files, look at the files, browse through the folders, create new files, obviously, upload them, delete them. So basically everything that you need in order to manage a file system. And last but not least, as an administrator, one of your key tasks is to keep the system running, to understand the health of the system. So that's why we wanted to make it easy to get a really detailed but also quick understanding of the system health. So that's why we included dashboards that give an overview of key KPIs, make it easy to filter for them, and really to spot any potential issues that you might have. Now we can move on to the next slide, please, because that's where you see how the admin UI is going to look like. This is the start screen, basically, where you see the overview of your system. In this case, we have two databases. One is started, one is stopped. You can see how many nodes they have and how these nodes are doing. On the left-hand side, you see the functions that I just talked about, or the remaining capabilities. And on the next slide, say in the morning when you're coming in as an administrator, you want to grab a coffee, but first you really want to make sure if the system is doing well. So you go into the health dashboards, and in this case, you're seeing everything is fine. We had a bit of a peak there, but nothing to worry about. Everything is running smoothly, and you can really start your day in a relaxed way. So that was about the admin UI, and now Thomas is going to talk about all the really cool new capabilities we have in the core DB.
Thanks, Jürgen. So I'm Thomas. I'm the product manager for the Exasol core database and the integrations. And today I want to talk about performance. So as you can see on the slide, performance is the core of what makes Exasol exceptional. And today I'm excited to share some of the great performance improvements we have implemented in the core database. But before we do so, let's just remind ourselves why performance really matters so much. Next slide, please. First and foremost, high performance is crucial because it allows you to achieve more with less compute, so you keep your costs in control. Exasol delivers faster query results, not only in benchmarks, but also for all of our customers in real use cases, and handles larger datasets much more efficiently, all while keeping your costs in check. Secondly, performance improvements enable faster decision-making for more users within your organization, so you get fast concurrent queries at scale. Third, this is giving you a competitive advantage. In a market where every second counts, being able to process and analyze data faster than your competitors can make all the difference. So let's have a look now at all of the great performance optimizations we have done in our new release. Let's start with the compile time improvements. So what is the SQL compilation? So when you run a SQL query, it goes through a process called compilation. It involves to translate your high-level SQL code into an execution plan. So it parses the query, validates it against the database schema, and optimizes it for performance, and finally generates an execution plan which gets executed. Let's have a look at this chart. It's important to note that these improvements are based on real customer queries. So what you can see here, there was a query in Exasol 7.1, which only the compile time took way over 20 seconds. And now with our new release, the compile time is around 2 seconds. But just remind ourselves, those are really complex queries. Thousands of lines of code involving a lot of nested views, common table expressions, and a lot of complex logic involved. So why does this really matter? So faster compile time means quicker query processing overall and reduced waiting times, which leads to a more efficient user experience for you. But that's not all. These improvements also mean that you can run higher concurrency now, and again, predictable cost. So compared to version Exasol 7.1, we are roughly 8 times faster for complex queries. We have also optimized some of the core operations in a SQL database. One of them is the union all optimization. So let's understand the optimization first. In SQL, a union all operation combines the results of 2 or more queries into a single result set. So by pushing the join condition through all the union all parts, we can significantly enhance the performance of complex queries in many use cases. So what you can see here, for example, the TPCDS query from the TPCDS benchmark, which is well known in the database industry, the query 5 got 80% faster, which is really remarkable. Same for the query 54, which is 64% faster. But why does this really matter for you? So those optimizations are not just theoretical for some kind of TPCDS benchmark, but they are based on your feedback from you as a customer. And what we have seen now, for many of those customer queries, they go down from minutes to less than 1 second. So it's remarkable. So it's a factor of 100 or more, what we could see here for our customers in real life scenarios. So I'm really proud to share this with you. And another area, next slide, please. We have done a complete overhaul of our fast Parquet bulk loader. So before this was done with UDFs and Java, and now we have fully integrated the Parquet bulk loader into the core database, and it's 10 times faster compared to the older Java UDF-based solution. So how did we achieve that? So we have implemented this using the Arrow C++ library internally, and that's the reason we can really efficiently parallel the loading speed now. And as we all know, Parquet is basically the de facto standard to store columnar data. It's the base for Iceberg and Delta Lake and other formats. So this bulk loader will also build the base functionality for our new Data Lakehouse integration capabilities. Next slide, please. Overall, I'm really proud to share with you all of those amazing performance improvements in the core database. We have seen it for compile time. We have seen it for Parquet loading, but also like for core database operations like the union all optimization. And another one, we've also improved OR filter optimization with a factor of 3. So I think those results stand for themselves. And I just want to say I'm really proud of also of our database team who has implemented all of these great improvements. And then I want to jump to our new integration section. Next slide, please. Yeah. So we have improved our virtual schemas. And now we have include support for Databricks and Snowflake. So let's just remind everyone what virtual schemas are. They are an abstraction layer. So it allows users now to access data stored in Databricks and Snowflake without needing to move it or duplicate it. So you can see it as a unified access layer, like any other data virtualization solutions. So Exasol is a single point of access to various data platforms. It could be relational databases or also now data lakehouse solutions like Databricks or Snowflake. So you can use this to either do data exploration or data loading. And this enables things like repatriate of workloads from the cloud back to on-premise, or you can also think about hybrid environments where some of your data is stored on-prem, but you still have several other data sets which you have stored in the cloud, and then in Exasol you can bind them and do analytics. And it's also an easy migration path to move workloads from those platforms for acceleration purposes, for example, into Exasol. So now we have loaded all that data into Exasol, and we want to get value out of it. And one of the best things to get value out of it is our new AI offerings. And Madeleine will talk about those things now.
All right. Thank you very much, Thomas. Plenty of exciting stuff coming your way. Let's talk about a little bit more. But before I dive in, a little bit of housekeeping for all of you attending today. Hope you're enjoying so far. And we want to encourage you to ask questions and post comments. So there should be a comments option if you want to go ahead and ask any questions. We're going to try to leave some time at the end to answer those. And we'll also try to answer those as we go along. So feel free to engage if you so choose. Fantastic. All right, let's talk a little bit about AI. So we talked about performance, which of course is at the core of what makes Exasol Exasol. We talked about improving admin experiences. And now I want to talk about how we layer AI on top of Exasol as a platform, and also how we embed AI deeply into Exasol as a database. And there's three key ways that we're approaching that. So let's start with the first one. So we're going to start with bringing language models directly into your database. Now, language models, of course, are the big hype these days. They're powering things like GPTs. They're powering our agentic AI systems that we're starting to see roll out. They've really unlocked a lot of opportunity in the market and all these different solutions. Now, why is it important for us to bring the power of language models to our database? Go to the next slide. So the reality is your data warehouse, your database has a significant amount of data gravity. That's because it is an investment in and of itself. So you've invested both in the infrastructure, also in all of the systems and processes that bring data into your database, your data warehouse, and of course the people and teams built around that. So analytics perhaps that sits on top of your database, and all of the systems that pull data out of your database that you use to drive your business. And so we believe that it's incredibly important to acknowledge and respect that investment. And that's why we want to bring the power of generative AI to your database. So this means no migration, no complex movement of data. You can, most importantly, keep your data secure wherever it is. And so that's how we think about AI at Exasol, is how do we bring AI to your data? Next slide. So we've done a ton of work to do just that, which is bring AI to your data. And there's three key ways that you can do this within Exasol. The first is you can access API language model endpoints. So this is kind of your bread and butter approach here. So if you're working with your ChatGPT, your Anthropic models, your Geminis, pretty much any model that you can access via API, you can call out to that via a user-defined function in Exasol. User-defined functions are incredibly flexible, and so we support a variety of different languages: Python, R, Java, Lua. You can write these functions, call out to your API endpoint and your model wherever it lives, and execute whatever that function is directly within Exasol. Now, that's just one of three ways. You can also host your model locally. So if you're using a provider like LM Studio, or another perhaps bespoke language model provider, and you're hosting that within your own environment, you can use the same methodology to access that model within Exasol. And then the last way is incredibly exciting. We can actually host language models directly within the Exasol database. And we've actually built this functionality in using various Hugging Face models. So this is an open source repository of language models. We have functions where you can download a language model directly from wherever its source is, in this case, Hugging Face, and you can store that within Exasol's Bucketfs file system. So that gets replicated across all of your nodes, and then you use the same user-defined function to access that language model. But in this case, the entire workflow is self-contained within the Exasol system. So reinforcing that idea of security and control. You're in charge of your data, you're in charge of your model. So we've tested this out with a variety of different models. We've talked about Hugging Face. We're working with a partner, Cohere, Olama, your custom language models, DeepSeek. Kind of choose your model, bring your own model, and then pick the pattern that's going to work best for you, either accessing that model where it lives on the open internet, in your own environment, or directly within Exasol. And you can use all of this to power additional insights. So because this is living close to your data, because we're using this user-defined function framework, you can essentially create any custom workflow that you want. And so that's incredibly exciting, that marriage of data and AI, and giving you the flexibility and the control to deploy these in a way that is going to work for your organization. Right, next. Great. So bringing AI into the database unlocks a ton of possibilities. And we decided at Exasol that we wanted to explore some of the more specific solutions that we could create when you combine the power of AI, the power of language models, with all of the capabilities of Exasol as a database. And so we want to go deeper into what types of additional insights can we unlock when it comes to AI and data, because it's all about applications. How can we actually solve business problems? How can we actually create value for you, our users, when we combine AI and Exasol? So let's talk about one of these specific ways that we're applying AI and data together to create more value for you. And we decided to start by tackling one of the most pervasive challenges that we as data providers see in the industry, and that's the challenge of unstructured data. So the reality of the world we live in is that only about 20% of the data that we work with day to day is structured data. And this is friendly data. This is data that lives in a relational format. It's easy to analyze. It's easy to interact with. It's easy to build a dashboard on top of. But you click through here, about 80% of enterprise data is actually unstructured or semi-structured. So this is things like text files, PDFs, log files, also things like news articles, legal briefs, product manuals, consumer reviews, so on and so forth. There's tons of examples of unstructured data. And we even go into different modalities. You've got things like photos, images, videos, so on and so forth. Now, we believe that AI can help unlock the value buried within this unstructured data. And because there's so much of it, there's a ton of value to be found. Just because the data is unstructured doesn't mean there isn't incredible insight in there. And prior to this sort of AI revolution that we're in, it was very hard to pull information out of unstructured and semi-structured data, which meant it was very hard to analyze that data and actually get value out of it. So we decided to build a solution that does exactly that. We use the power of Exasol combined with the potential of AI to extract insight from unstructured data. Next slide. And so we're launching a solution called Exasol Text AI. This does exactly what we just said, which is take unstructured data and turn it into structured data that's primed for analysis. So let's start with an example here. So we're going to take a pretty kind of ubiquitous example, which is support tickets. These are stored in tons of different ways and lots of different systems, but kind of across all of those systems, you typically get a ticket description in some format. So I've submitted plenty of support tickets, I've read plenty of support tickets, and inevitably the information that you actually want is typically buried in the text fields within the support ticket data. So let's say I'm an analyst. I want to understand, hey, I've got all of these support tickets. What's the most pressing issue? What is the most common product that's impacted? And is this frustrating for my users? How concerned should I be? So I could go through ticket by ticket and read each of these and pull out pieces of information. That would take forever. I could probably script a solution, but then I would have to know what I'm looking for in all of these tickets. So neither of those is really a solution. So we decided to apply AI to this solution. And this is where Exasol Text AI in particular works. And click through. So we use AI to identify entities, keywords, and topics from within this raw text. And so we're able to pull out things like the product and the criticality of each of these tickets. So you can see I've gone from a raw text field that is kind of unanalyzable to actual relational information. So for each of these tickets, I can see which products were mentioned. I can see what the various topics were. And with Text AI, I can choose even more information that I want to pull out of each of these. Now, what this means is I can actually start to go analyze this and build answers to the questions I've asked. So originally, I wanted to know which products are most impacted, which products show up the most in all of these support tickets. And now I can easily build out that type of visualization after I've run all of my information through text AI. So this is all built within Exasol. So we're leveraging user-defined functions as well as language models directly embedded within Exasol to process this unrefined data and turn it into relational data that can then power analytics and business decisions. So I've given you an example here of what support ticket synthesization might look like, but I'm very excited to see how all of you apply this in your businesses. So things like digitization, things like searching through product reviews, things like looking at financial reporting. There's tons of applications. So we'll be launching this shortly. And again, very excited to see how you all choose to apply this solution to your business. All right, let's take a look at the next element here. Okay, Exasol AI Lab. So we've talked about quite a few things already. We talked about languages models in your database. We talked about Exasol Text AI. And the reality of this AI world we're living in is it is moving incredibly quickly. And there's always something new to learn and try and apply. And there's a new solution that is going to provide value to your business. Now, we want to make sure that we make it as easy as possible for you and your teams to build AI solutions. And so we built this free service called Exasol AI Lab. So anyone using Exasol can use AI Lab today. It's available. And if you feel so inclined and you want to scan our QR code here and go dive into the GitHub documentation and download it, feel free. What is AI Lab? So AI Lab is essentially a collection of Jupyter notebooks and a Jupyter environment that contains a couple key things. So we've built out, let's call them like patterns and walkthroughs for implementing data science and AI workloads. So end to end, we've built out various solutions for applying data science and AI on top of data within Exasol. AI Lab also includes various utilities that help you bring data in to Exasol, as well as connect and use really popular frameworks and libraries within the AI and data science space. So things like EBIS connectors, things like your scikit-learn. I mentioned earlier downloading language models from Hugging Face. All of those utilities are available directly within AI Lab. So think of it kind of as your one-stop shop for getting started with implementing AI on top of Exasol. And we'll always be adding to this and making more information available. So it's really a place to not only learn, but accelerate your AI implementation. Fantastic. All right. We've got one more exciting pillar to talk about because it's Exasol, and we're not really done until we've talked about performance quite a bit because, as I've said, and as you've heard my colleagues Thomas, Florian, and Alex talk about, performance is really at the core of what drives Exasol, and we're always working to improve our own performance. And a point that I like to make when you see the metrics that Thomas shared, for example, when we talk about performance and our performance improvements, we're comparing ourselves against ourselves. And I love that because it shows that we're always pushing ourselves internally as a team to be as fast as we possibly can. And we consider ourselves to be the competition. That's because oftentimes we're faster than almost everyone else out there. And so we are the only competition. But we like to stay humble about it and always use that as a way to push ourselves to improve. And that applies to the world of AI as well. Now, when we start to work with AI, we see that data volumes increase drastically. So that's training models, but also generating inferences. I work with lots of customers who, once they start to implement AI solutions, even some of your more classic data science solutions, they really start to see the volume of their data and the volume of the inferences that they're generating kind of balloon in scale. And we want to be able to support that because at production, if you have something that's working, you're going to start using it more and more. And that means you're going to need more compute power. And we wanted to figure out a way to give that to you. So we approached this by building GPU support for Exasol. So this is an incredibly exciting innovation that our team has been working on that will be coming to you later this year. And we're going to start by just building GPU support directly into our UDF framework. Now, I've talked about UDFs a couple times, these user-defined functions. And these are really at the core of how we implement data science and AI on top of Exasol. And so GPU support for UDFs means it's as simple as specifying when you create a UDF that you can now run it on GPU hardware, whereas previously you could only run on CPU. So this actually shows you here on the screen what that implementation looks like. Like I said, it's pretty simple and pretty straightforward, which I think is elegant and exciting at the same time. So when you create a user-defined function, all you have to do is specify that you'll be using the appropriate GPU underlying frameworks, and that's using our existing specifications here, script language containers. And we'll build this all in for you. So that's one of the great things about this as we launch this and as you start to see this rolling out, is we've built a lot of this directly into our user-defined functions, our frameworks, and some of it you'll be able to access via AI Lab. Then you specify in your UDF that you want to use GPU acceleration. And then here within, if you look at this third box, you can see we're going to use some critical GPU libraries. So initially we'll be supporting NVIDIA GPU-based hardware. And then as we go forward, we'll likely expand that into other platforms. And then at the end here, you can see the beauty of this is in the same way that you would access any other user-defined function, you can access the GPU accelerated user-defined functions just by calling them in a SQL statement. And so I wanted to just show this because I think it's almost, I think the simplicity of the implementation is almost contradictory to how exciting the implementation itself is. But I think that that's something that I love about Exasol is we like to try to keep it simple. So GPU acceleration is going to be incredibly exciting, but I wanted to put some numbers behind it. So let's take a look at those. Click one more. So CPU acceleration already gets us pretty fast. As you've seen, if you're using Exasol, it's pretty darn fast today, but GPU acceleration makes it even faster. So we've done some early testing, and we can see that GPUs are about 7 times faster for query execution than CPUs. Now, there's another way to look at this because GPUs and CPUs aren't exactly one-to-one. So one GPU can effectively run the workload of 24 equivalent CPU cores. So this means not only are GPUs faster, but they can also be used as a way to offload work from your CPU. And this is a really important part of the story, because when you offload that work, that means that you can actually run more workloads, or potentially you can reduce your reliance on CPU. So that provides opportunities for cost savings. And that's where I think the story really gets interesting, because even though GPUs don't just make you faster, they also give you a way to improve the efficiency of your Exasol clusters and potentially save you money. So faster and cheaper, really not something you can get very often in the database world, but you can get it here. So stay tuned. We'll have more information coming out about our GPU support as we roll this out starting later this year. Again, incredibly excited for what this means for all of our users, both in the cost savings and, of course, in the performance that this is going to deliver. All right. And click one more time, Robert. Perfect. So just to bring it all together, I want to reiterate what I said at the beginning, which is how we approach AI with Exasol is we want to integrate AI directly into your database. So it's all about offering faster, deeper insights, whether that's language models directly in your database, bespoke solutions like text AI to help you extract insight from unstructured data, to core and infrastructure improvements like GPU support to help accelerate those insights and manage costs at the same time. So there will be even more coming, but incredibly excited to share these announcements with you. And as always, excited to see what you do with them. So Florian, I will hand it back to you.
All right. Thanks, Madeline. Then let's move over to the next slide. So we heard a lot of exciting things that are coming up, well, shortly, right? So we're talking about the Q2 release and where you can even experience first versions of the GPU support for UDF, and then coming to be further iterations later this year. But what's next, right? And instead of talking features, functions, I want to talk a little bit more about the broader theme so that we are addressing here. So Thomas has already hinted a little bit about the virtual schema integrations that we are doing for Snowflake and Databricks, but we're not stopping there, right? So surely as follow-ups, you're going to see dedicated webinars around our new exciting Lakehouse acceleration. You also can already check it out on our website. And so having Exasol on top of Data Lakehouse as a focused query engine, that's going to be the way forward in 2025. Jürgen already talked a lot about operational excellence and in making users more efficient, right? And we have two different topics that feed into this narrative, right? So we have snapshot backups that are just an easy and intuitive way to do backups effortlessly and frequently, and I'm excited about that. That's going to replace our legacy backups in the future, but at the beginning, it's just going to be an exciting add-on. And then the admin UI, we just gave you a glimpse of the overall functionality that's going to come. And I see our admin UI as a unified user interface that we want to develop for our end users, right? And this also doubles down on the efforts that we want to put into making Exasol not just a performant product, but also a query engine that delights our customers, right? So, and we identified especially developers as a core user group, so the programmatic users that we want to address more and support them with open source libraries, with documentations, tutorials, and so on. So exceptional developer user experience is also going to be a core theme of this year, but also of the years to come. Then if we look into next year and in the following years, we already talked about a query engine, but Exasol can do so much more. We heard from Madeline all the different kinds of also non-SQL workloads you can run on Exasol, right? So the path is really going forward towards a compute engine, right? And what do you need for that? Well, we want to simplify and make our UDF framework even more powerful, right? So that you can run even more script languages like Rust, for example, also inside the database, get a more intuitive look and feel, easier to deploy also from programmatic tools outside of Exasol. We want to support modern CPU architectures like ARM, for example. So everybody who's running a MacBook at the moment has probably an ARM processor somewhere there. Also, all the new GPU architectures are built on ARM processors plus then GPUs. So this is something that we want to support and that we're actively working on. New data types. When we just released an improved timestamp, but vector data is especially a very important data type that's needed if you want to do more generative AI right inside the database, right? And then last but not least, GPU support for UDF is already awesome. So just imagine how much better it would be if you could also use GPUs to accelerate your daily BI and SQL workloads, right? So having GPUs also support or speed up joins, for example, this is something that is going to be the next iteration of Exasol supporting GPUs. So I'm really excited about that. Also, once again, want to call out, we're close to the ending. If you have any questions, put them in the chat so we get some time at the end for Q&A. And with that, I want to hand it over to the last slide.
There you go. Thank you, Florian. So I think this is like super exciting, right? I mean, as the product team showed here, we have so much stuff that just came out now with the new release that you all basically will have access to almost immediately. And then, I mean, a super exciting roadmap going forward. I think a lot of it, and we did actually get pretty deep in the AI part here. And I really see Exasol as the AI database. This is really one that enables you and gives you all this power and allows you to actually really leverage the future of AI within your data. But on top of that, as Florian mentioned, we have so much exciting stuff happening in the Lakehouse space. So a lot of you may be familiar with this, that this is the big change that's happening in the database world at the moment, where we basically, with the Lakehouse architecture, we give like massive scalability. You can have almost unlimited amount of data pretty cheaply stored in cheap object storage, but you can do that with the full database capabilities on top. And Exasol just launched the Lakehouse Turbo, which is basically a way to put the Exasol on top of a Lakehouse and accelerate all your workloads, which is crazy. When you can take like a standard Databricks workload running on Delta Lake, and we can accelerate it more than 100 times, and giving you like maybe like you cut your cost down to a quarter of what it was before, which is super, super amazing. So if any of you are considering to go to already using a Lakehouse architecture, using Delta Lake or Iceberg or any of the new architectures, contact us and see if we can help you. We can actually help you cut the cost in maybe in half, maybe down to with 4 times less than it is now, and give you a huge performance boost at the same time, and allow you to do all your AI workloads on top of that. So I think that's the super exciting part. We will have more webinars coming that cover specifically this in the near future. But already now, if you're interested, we have it in a private preview, so you can contact us and we will hook you up and show you how you can transform your system. So I will hand this over to Ian, who will kind of guide with the Q&A.
That's great. Thanks very much, Alexander. So thanks to the product team there. Great presentation, some really interesting insight. So I'm going to try and just in the last sort of 10, 12 minutes that we've got of your time here, just call out a few of the questions that some of you have posted. What we will do after this is collate all of the questions and provide answers and email it out to you as well, so you've got the detail. As you can see on the slide here, we're very keen to hear your views, find different ways of engaging with you, and you can see 3 different options here of if you haven't done so already and you're interested, you can try Exasol yourself through the community edition. You can actually explore some of the things that Madeline and the team were talking around in terms of AI Lab by clicking on the link for the QR code there to AI Lab. And also, one of the new things we've introduced that we're very keen to build up here is our discussion with you through the community engagement area that we've got. So very keen to get your views in there so we can start developing some of these areas together with you. So anyway, without further ado, one of the first questions, actually I'd like to direct it to you, Florian, if I can. So can we highlight the features that we've discussed there, which are on-prem only or which are SaaS only? Perhaps you could answer that.
Okay, so that's an interesting question. So let me just run through my head. I mean, there's so many exciting things. So I think Admin UI, that's non-SaaS, right? Because SaaS has its own UI, right? So this has similar look and feel, but different kind of functionality. Right, as we talked about unifying stuff, so maybe this is sometime converting into one user interface. So that's something that's purely non-SaaS. I would say all the performance benefits that Thomas showed, that's core database, so independent of the deployment model. The same goes for the AI bits. Yeah, in the Outlook, I think snapshot backups, that's something we're going to focus on, I would say, on-prem and in our, universal deployments. We call that as app deployment, right? So not for cloud native. We already have snapshot backups in SaaS, so it's not a big surprise, just working a little differently there. So I would say, we are trying to keep the benefits universal, right? So it would only say marginal differences in the admin UI part that are specific, of course, to non-SaaS.
Great, thanks for that. Jürgen, question for you. A number of people keen to learn more about when they can experience the new admin UI? Which version of version 8 will this be available in? Perhaps you want to just talk to that.
We are going to release it with the experience release. To be completely honest, I'm not 100% sure what the version number is. So maybe Florian or the rest of you could help me out.
I mean, we're coming up with a new versioning number, right? So it's 2025.1. So we're switching to 2 releases a year. So it's one at the end of Q2, one at the end of Q4. So basically, it's that release. But without promising too much, I think we were also going to have deep dive sessions about admin UI demo sessions, or I mean, Jürgen, probably if somebody reaches out to you, you're also happy to demonstrate, right?
So yes, and sorry that I didn't have the answer of the exact version number. I think the key message here is that the version is going to come out end of June, beginning of July. So I think that's probably what interested people want to take away with. And yeah, like Florian is saying, if you are interested in a demo or something, you can reach out to me. And we will definitely do additional webinars where we have dedicated session on the admin UI, where I'm actually going to show a demo. So kind of, watch the space. There's more to come.
Great, thanks for that. Thomas, quick question for you around virtual schema. So question here saying, regarding virtual schema from Snowflake or Databricks, are there any limitations on the number of tables?
For the Databricks virtual schema, there's still a limitation in there, but with future versions, we will also overcome this limitation, yes.
And and apologies to, I don't have, the questions are anonymous. I don't know who's asked this question specifically, but the question relates to information that the person's asked here, that they've read in GitHub that there are a maximum of 50 tables per virtual schema. Is that correct or not?
It's for the first version, yes. But maybe this user can also, if he really is interested in using it, we can also have a conversation, and he can get in touch with us. Yes.
Perfect. Okay, thanks for that. Perhaps Florian, for you, this one for yourself, is the GPU performance improvement only available to UDFs that use GPUs or non-UDF SQL queries?
So handing that over probably to Madeline. I have an answer, but she probably has a better one. So
okay,
Madeline.
Over to you, Madeline.
Yeah, so in its initial iteration, the GPU acceleration will only apply to UDFs. We will have further iterations following that, so looking out into next year and beyond, where we will use GPUs to directly power SQL queries. So both are coming, but in this first version, only UDFs will get the acceleration.
Great. Okay, thanks for that. Thomas, perhaps you, in relation to Parquet bulk loader, when will this be available?
It's part of the experience release 2025.1.
Perfect. So in the timeframes that
yes.
Florian was talking about a few months ago. Great. We've got a lot of questions, certainly more than we've got time to answer. So is, again, perhaps, Florian, if we start with you, perhaps, is JavaScript support planned for UDF scripts?
At the moment, this is not planned, right? I mean, we intentionally kept it open and said on the Outlook we want to add new scripting languages, right? So there might be a poll, or I mean, of course, we're interested in what people want, right? So we're not just picking something from the list and say, well, that's what you get. And that's why I mentioned Rust, because it's trending in the developer community at the moment. But well, so not promising anything, but we're using this as input, and I would direct these kind of things to the community, where we could then see, do we get a critical mass, right? So the more people join the community and will point us towards that kind of thing, it's the easier it is for us to prioritize.
Perfect. Okay. I've got a question here. I'm going to sort of throw it open to the product team as to who feels most comfortable answering this. But the question is, could we touch on the license requirements when accessing data from a data lake? Currently, it's data size based. Any views on that one?
Yeah, I can take that. So right now, our data lake integration comes with our SaaS. In the SaaS, the in-cloud service, the payment is consumption based. So it's basically the data you access and drive in is what you'll pay for, and and how much you use it. Where on-prem you pay, of course, for more. That's more static. You pay for like the size of your installation, how many terabytes it uses.
Yeah.
So in the current data lakehouse setup, it's a much more fluid situation where you basically just pay based on your consumption, how much activity you have.
So if I may expand on this, so in SaaS, the model is we charge for the compute that you use and the storage. The storage is basically just a pass-through from our underlying cloud provider, but essentially we are charging for the compute that you need to use. And that obviously has a relation to how much memory and basically how big your system is. But the good thing about SaaS is you can scale very flexibly. So for those times where you need fewer resources or smaller systems, you can scale them down or even shut them down, or then start up and scale up very elastically and very flexibly.
Great. So maybe the last two questions in the time we've got. Perhaps Alexander, this or Florian, this is one for you. But the question is, does Exasol have plans to participate in the TPC DS?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we're doing this internally. Everybody's doing that. Everybody has their own flavor. So they say, well, we are doing TPCDS, and then they optimize a few queries here and there that are not working as well for the competition. It's an open discussion, right? At the moment, we feel comfortable that customers and also prospects see the performance benefits of Exasol. It's auditing such a benchmark is always, it's not just cost, it's also a lot of effort that I would rather put into product development. But I think there are also plans, because we're geeks at the end of the day, and we're really excited to just show what we can. So never say never, but yeah. So undecided, but in discussion, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I would add to that and just say, just because a lot of the audience might not be aware of this, that doing these benchmarks is not just doing the benchmark, right? Because everybody can do that. You can all run the benchmark, but that's not necessarily a real result. So to have a real TPC, whether it's TPC-H or the TPC-DS result, it has to be audited, which means the official organization actually even come to you and watch you that you're not cheating and that it's actually representative. So that's a huge undertaking. And we did that with TPC-H, and we've done that several times to show that we are actually the fastest database. And there's a likelihood that we'll do that with DS again, because again, the results, unless it's actually really audited, it's not really trustworthy. So that's why we haven't published anything, because if we were going to publish something, we want it to be something you can trust. That actually is real.
I think as well on that, just for those, if you haven't seen already, there's a blog post that our CTO recently launched around the testing that we carry out and how that's baked in. I think that's well worth a read if people haven't already seen that backs up that. So we've got 1 minute, very quick question. Maybe Alexander, if I throw this over to you, bearing in mind the way we're keen to engage with people, we're very keen to have comments. What sort of feedback and information are you ideally looking for from customers and partners might be listening?
Definitely, that's a really good one. Yeah, because we really want to engage with our users. I mean, you users out there, you're the ones who actually use the product day to day. You're the one who really knows what you want and what you would like to see, what you don't like. And we want to engage with you. And if you see it right on the slide here, there's actually a join the discussion, a QR code link to the community forum. You can also, of course, go to our website and find the community forum there. I would really recommend everybody who's a user of database to go there, join the forum, and you can ask all these questions there. We will be there to answer, and of course there will be other people from the community there to answer. And it's not just that you can get answers to questions. All that, or the thing you ask for, will feed into our product plans, and will actually help make the product better. So you might get the product you want instead of just whatever we come up with. I would encourage everybody to join our community, come to hang out in the forum, and then engage with like your peers there.
Excellent, great, thanks for that. Well, that takes us up to the top of the hour. So, firstly, thanks very much to everybody who's joined. Thanks to the team for the presentation and the discussions. As I said, we'll send out the questions and the many other questions that we didn't get a chance to go through, and the answers to you via email in the next couple of days. But we'll draw close to the webinar there, and thank you very much for your time. Hope to speak to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.